The planet Varelia hung in the sky like a jewel, its twin suns casting pale violet light across the landscape. Strange forests of crystal-like trees stretched for miles, their leaves humming faintly in the wind. Rivers of liquid silver ran between jagged cliffs that sparkled under the sunlight. It was a place of beauty and mystery, but for most humans, it was also a place of danger. Yet standing at the edge of the main alien city, Commander Elias Hart felt a strange calm settle over him. Elias had been chosen to represent humanity in its first contact with the Varelians. His mission was simple in words, but impossible in reality: to earn the trust of a species that had never met humans and had long feared them. Legends of human violence and unpredictability had traveled across space, exaggerated and distorted. Varelians believed that humans were reckless, aggressive, and dangerous. That belief had kept them distant, cautious, and unwelcoming. Elias adjusted the straps of his lightweight suit, which gleamed faintly in the violet light. The suit was designed for comfort and adaptability, allowing him to move quickly without alarming the locals. In his hand he held a small emblem, a globe of Earth, encased in transparent crystal. It was a symbol of peace and unity, meant to show that humanity had traveled not to conquer, but to cooperate. From the city, figures began to emerge. They were tall, slender, and graceful, moving with a fluidity that made their every step seem deliberate. Their skin shimmered in soft shades of blue and green, reflecting the light around them. Most kept their distance, watching cautiously from behind crystalline barriers or hovering platforms. But one of them, a young female named Lyra, stood slightly ahead of the others. Lyra had been assigned to observe the human. She was a junior diplomat, and her first encounter with a human had filled her with nervous anticipation. Stories of humans' violence and cleverness had been drilled into her since childhood. They spoke of humans as wild animals with intelligence so sharp it could cut like a knife. But as she watched Elias, she noticed something that surprised her. He did not move with aggression, nor did he carry the tense aura of danger she had been warned about. Instead, there was a calm confidence in his posture, a quiet patience in the way he scanned the city before him. Her heart beat faster. She had been trained to control fear, but it was difficult now. Her legs felt unsteady, and her hands trembled slightly. Trembling, she reminded herself, was unacceptable. Diplomats were meant to represent the dignity of their species. Yet she could not help it. Humans were different. Elias, sensing her hesitation even from a distance, smiled faintly. His translator, a small device clipped to his collar, softly converted his words into the Varelian tongue. "I mean no harm. I come to learn, not to take." Lyra's eyes widened. His voice carried warmth and sincerity, and the translation carried it clearly. For a moment, she wondered if she had misunderstood everything she had been told about humans. Hesitation gave way to curiosity. She took a careful step forward, then another. The other Varelians whispered among themselves, their elongated voices harmonizing like wind through hollow crystals. They were wary, unsure, and afraid of what might happen. Lyra ignored them for now. Her focus was on Elias and the calm that seemed to surround him. As she moved closer, Elias extended his hand, open and steady, a universal gesture of peace. Lyra froze. She had read about human gestures in the archives, but seeing one in reality was different. The hand was not threatening. It was an invitation, an offer of trust. Lyra's mind raced. She knew her species had strong instincts about self-preservation. Humans had been described as cunning, sometimes violent, often unpredictable, but here was a human showing none of those traits. Instead, he was careful, respectful, and patient. Slowly, she placed her hand in his, their fingertips barely touching. Felt a strange warmth. For a moment, the world seemed to narrow to just the two of them. The violet skies, the shimmering trees, the silver rivers all faded into the background. Lyra's trembling slowed. She realized that her species' fears were not entirely wrong. Humans were strong, but they were incomplete. Humans could be strong and clever, yes, but they could also be compassionate, patient, and wise. Elias was proof of that. The soft hum of the translator continued as Elias spoke gently. I have come from a world far away. We wish to learn from you, and perhaps share what we know as well. There is no reason for fear, only understanding. Lyra blinked. Her species prized knowledge above all else, yet fear often clouded judgment. Here was a being who seemed to understand the balanced strength, without aggression, courage without recklessness. She felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps humanity could indeed be trusted. The city around them was alive with movement. Strange vehicles hovered silently along the streets, and glowing creatures floated above the crystalline towers. The Varelians watched from above, curious but cautious. Even in their silence, the Council of Elders could be felt a presence of authority. Waiting to judge the humans' intentions, Elias noticed their eyes, though he did not flinch. Instead, he bowed slightly in respect, acknowledging their watchfulness. The gesture was small but deliberate, a sign of respect that transcended language. Lyra could see it, and she felt a sense of relief. Here was someone who understood diplomacy not just as words, but as action. Lyra led Elias toward a public plaza, its ground made of polished crystal that reflected the soft light of the twin suns. It was a place of meeting, discussion, and demonstration. The humans' eyes widened slightly at the architecture, so alien yet so beautiful, like nothing they had seen before. But Elias remained calm. His mind cataloged every detail, noting patterns, analyzing movement, and never losing the gentle warmth that had drawn Lyra's attention. As they walked, Lyra found herself asking questions. What do humans value? She asked softly, her voice almost a whisper, now betraying the nervousness she still carried. Elias smiled, pleased by the question. We value knowledge, courage, kindness, and cooperation. We make mistakes, but we try to learn from them. Our strength is not just in our bodies, but in our hearts and minds. Lyra considered his words. They were simple, yet profound. Her species often spoke in complex terms, layered with meaning, but humans seemed to distill wisdom into its purest form. She felt her fear begin to dissolve, replaced by curiosity and admiration. They reached the center of the plaza, where a fountain of liquid crystal sparkled under the sunlight. Lyra paused, letting Elias take in the sight. He observed quietly, then nodded appreciatively. She realized he did not rush, did not demand anything, did not assume superiority. He was human, yet he carried a dignity that seemed to surprise her. Suddenly, a distant sound drew their attention, a warning bell from the city towers. The council was observing more closely now. Lyra's body tensed instinctively, and a fresh tremor ran through her hands. Elias noticed immediately. Do not fear, he said softly, almost to himself. I understand why you tremble. Lyra froze. How could he understand? She had not spoken her fears aloud. But Elias' gaze was kind, calm, and knowing. It was as if he had looked into her mind and seen the balance of curiosity and fear, caution and courage. You see, he continued, humans often face the unknown. We approach carefully, because we respect it. And when we meet fear, we do not ignore it, we acknowledge it, and move forward anyway. Lyra's trembling slowed further. She felt a connection forming, fragile but real. Perhaps this human was not just a visitor. Perhaps he could be a bridge between two worlds. As the sun began to lower, casting longer shadows across the plaza, Elias and Lyra continued walking side by side. Neither spoke much, but each step was deliberate, each gesture measured. Around them, the city watched silently, waiting for the next move. And as the violet light faded into twilight, Lyra realized something profound. The human had approached carefully, yes, but he had also approached with hope, respect, and understanding. For the first time, she dared to imagine a future where humans were not feared, but welcomed. The violet skies of Veralia had begun to deepen into a soft indigo, the twin suns slowly retreating behind distant crystal mountains. The city glimmered under the fading light, and the air was filled with the soft hum of energy flowing through the streets, through the buildings, and even through the hovering vehicles. Lyra led Commander Elias Hart to a central courtyard. a place where the Varelians often held meetings and discussions. Lyra's hands still trembled slightly. Though her curiosity had begun to overpower her fear, the closer she got to Elias, the more she noticed how careful he was with his movements. Gentle but deliberate, calm but alert. He observed everything, the way the streets curved, the patterns of light on the buildings, even the faint glimmers in the air caused by the city's energy flow. Lyra could not help but ask, "Why do you not fear us?" Her voice was soft, almost lost in the quiet murmur of the courtyard. Elias turned to her with a small, reassuring smile. "Fear is natural," he said, "but it should not control us. I have learned that when we face the unknown, we must approach it with caution. Yes, but also with respect. Fear is not a wall, it is a door. We can step through it carefully and learn something new." Lyra blinked. His words were simple, yet they carried a weight she had not expected. Varelians often spoke in layered sentences, filled with metaphor, designed to impress or intimidate. Humans, she realized, had a directness that was rare, but it carried a sincerity that made her heart calm. As they entered the courtyard, other Varelians began to appear. Some hovered on platforms, observing silently. Others stood near the edges, whispering to each other in a language that rang like music. Their eyes, elongated and glimmering, followed every movement Elias made. But he did not flinch. Instead, he moved slowly and respectfully, bowing lightly toward the elders seated on elevated crystalline chairs. Lyra watched him carefully. Here was a human who understood diplomacy not just as words, but as actions. His gestures were deliberate, his presence calm, and his attention focused on every detail. For the first time, she felt that the human's reputation as dangerous and unpredictable might be incomplete. Perhaps they were strong but not mindless. Perhaps they could be trusted, but only if approached carefully. The Council of Elders remained silent. They were ancient, their skin glimmering in shades of silver and gold, and their faces were unreadable. Their hands moved in small, intricate gestures, communicating silently among themselves. Elias noticed their communication, and with careful respect, he mirrored a gesture he had learned through observation, a subtle sign of respect in Varelian culture. One of the elders spoke, their voice low and musical, yet powerful enough to carry across the courtyard. "Human, we observe you. Your presence is unusual. Your kind is known to be clever and strong, but also unpredictable. Why do you come to us?" Elias took a slow breath, steadying himself. He spoke in measured tones, the translator conveying every word with clarity. "I come to learn. I come to share knowledge, not take it. My world wishes to understand yours, to find common ground, and to cooperate. We bring no weapons. We bring only respect and curiosity." There was silence. Lyra could feel the tension in the air, the watchfulness of the elders, the hesitation of the citizens. She knew that many of her people still feared humans, and their fear had not yet been overcome by curiosity. But as Elias spoke, there was a calmness in his voice, steadiness in his stance that began to shift something in her mind. She stepped forward, breaking the tense silence. "I will guide him," she said, her voice stronger now, steadier than before. "He means no harm. He is here to understand us, as we would want to understand others." The elders regarded her carefully. They did not respond immediately, but their eyes lingered on her, and for the first time, she felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. She was not just a diplomat. She was the bridge between two worlds. Her actions could shape how her people viewed humans, and whether cooperation or conflict would follow. Lyra led Elias toward a smaller plaza where devices and artifacts were displayed. This was a place of learning and demonstration, where outsiders could observe Varelian culture and science in action. The artifacts glowed softly, floating above pedestals of polished crystal. Some devices hummed faintly, showing complex calculations in the air. Others displayed holographic images of the planet's history, its flora and fauna, its cities, and its art. Elias observed everything with careful attention. He paused at each display, asking questions about their purpose and design, showing genuine interest in the technology. He did not speak down to the Varelians. he asked as a student would ask a teacher, with curiosity and respect. Lyra noticed this and felt a growing admiration. He was human, yes. But his behavior was unlike anything she had been taught to expect from humans. One device drew Lyra's particular attention, a small cube that projected holographic images of the planet's ecosystems. He studied it for several minutes, his brow furrowed in concentration. "This is remarkable," he said softly. "You have found a way to capture the flow of life itself. On Earth, we strive to understand our ecosystems as well, but nothing like this exists. Could we study it together?" Lyra's heart raced. Cooperation, she realized, could begin here. If she allowed him to learn, if she allowed him to understand, perhaps the walls of fear would begin to crumble. She nodded. "Yes, but carefully." "We will guide you," Elias smiled. "Not with arrogance, but with gratitude. Careful is exactly how I intend to approach it." They spent the next hours moving from one display to another. Elias asked thoughtful questions about energy systems, environmental preservation, communication networks, and social organization. Lyra answered with patience, watching him absorb the information quickly. He did not rush, did not assume, and most importantly, did not judge. He approached every piece of knowledge with respect and fascination. By the time the twin suns fully set and the violet sky deepened into indigo night, Lyra found herself walking beside him with confidence rather than fear. "I did not expect humans to be so." "Careful," she admitted softly. Elias looked at her, his expression warm. "Many of us are cautious. We know that our strength can be dangerous, if not tempered by understanding. I approach carefully because I respect what I do not yet know." Lyra's trembling had almost disappeared. For the first time, she felt that trust, however fragile, was possible. She began to understand why the humans' reputation was mixed. Yes, they could be strong and sometimes reckless. But when guided by purpose and empathy, they could also be wise and careful beyond expectation. As night settled over the city, glowing orbs of light floated in the plaza, illuminating the paths and fountains with soft radiance. The Varelians continued to watch from their platforms, whispering in low tones, unsure what to make of this human. But Lyra felt a spark of hope. Perhaps this human, who approached carefully, yet carried quiet courage, could be the first step toward a true connection between their worlds. Elias turned to her. "I know why you trembled when you first approached me," he said softly, his voice carrying just enough for her to hear. Lyra froze. How could he know? She had tried to hide it, to mask her fear. Because he continued gently, "You are cautious. You have been told to fear humans, but you are also curious. And when curiosity meets caution, there is a trembling that is not weakness. It is awareness. I understand it because humans tremble the same way when we face the unknown." Lyra felt warmth spread through her chest. He had seen her fear, acknowledged it, and yet did not judge her. Instead, he understood. That understanding, she realized, was a gift rare, powerful, and precious. For a long moment, they walked in silence, side by side, through the glowing plaza. Neither spoke, yet a connection had formed. It was a connection based on respect, curiosity, and courage. Around them, the city of Varelia watched and waited. The elders remaining silent but attentive, the citizens whispering and observing. And in that moment, Lyra understood something she had never thought possible. Perhaps humans were not the threat her people had feared. Perhaps if approached with care and understanding, humans could be friends, allies, even teachers, as the stars began to emerge in the indigo sky. Reflecting in the silver rivers and crystal towers, Elias turned to Lyra and said, "Tomorrow, I hope we can begin something more. Not just observation, but real learning from each other." Lyra nodded, feeling a sense of purpose settle in her. "Yes," she whispered. "Tomorrow, we will learn together." For the first time, she walked without fear. The human had approached carefully, just as he said, and in doing so, he had begun to change her mind, and perhaps the minds of her people forever. The next morning, the twin suns of Aurelia rose over the crystalline spires, casting a soft violet glow across the city. Commander Elias Hart and Lyra walked toward the Grand Council Hall, their steps careful but purposeful. Today, Elias would face the Elders, test a demonstration of humanity's true nature. It was a trial designed to challenge intelligence, courage, and patience, to reveal whether the humans were trustworthy. Lyra felt a mix of pride and anxiety. She had chosen to guide Elias to show him the best of her people, but she knew the Council's tests could be difficult. Many had tried before and failed. They would push him to the limit, looking for weakness, unpredictability, or aggression. Yet Elias walked calmly, as though he already understood the importance of respect and focus. The council hall was enormous. Towers of crystal rose toward the ceiling, reflecting the morning light and creating 1,000 tiny rainbows on the floor. The elders sat in elevated seats, their long forms shimmering with shades of silver and gold. Between them and the center of the hall was a wide-open space, a platform that would serve as the trial arena. Lyra guided Elias to the edge of the platform. "The trial will test your mind, your patience, and your courage," she explained. "The Council wants to see if humans are careful, clever, and wise. They fear your strength, but they hope your mind is gentle enough to match it." Elias nodded. "I understand. I will show them what we humans value: reason, patience, and understanding." The first elder spoke, their voice musical yet commanding. "Human, your presence is unusual. To gain the trust of our people, you must complete the trial. You will face challenges of logic, strategy, and perception. Your actions will reveal your nature. Fail, and you leave this city with only knowledge of our mistrust. Succeed, and you may begin the work of friendship." Elias bowed slightly. "I accept." The first challenge appeared immediately, a maze of floating platforms, each hovering above a glowing pool of liquid silver. The platforms shifted subtly as he stepped on them, testing balance and coordination. On each platform was a small puzzle, symbols etched into crystal that needed to be matched and aligned. Lyra watched, holding her breath. The maze was designed to confuse, to tempt participants to act hastily. Many outsiders had fallen into the silver pools, panicking and retreating. Elias, however, moved deliberately. He studied each symbol, observing its pattern in relation to the others. He tested each movement carefully, never rushing, never forcing his way. When he reached the final platform, he aligned the symbols perfectly. A soft chime echoed through the hall, signaling the first stage's success. The elders remained silent, their eyes unreadable, but Lyra could feel a small spark of approval. The second challenge appeared, a series of suspended spheres, each containing a holographic puzzle. The puzzles showed scenes of Varelia's past storms, ecological changes, and challenges the city had faced. Elias was asked to predict outcomes and find solutions to prevent harm. Many would have panicked, feeling the weight of responsibility. But Elias approached it calmly. He analyzed each scenario, applying logic and empathy. He suggested solutions that preserved the natural balance and protected the citizens. Lyra could see that he was thinking not only about the puzzles, but about the consequences of each decision. The council murmured among themselves. Their whispers were silent to most, but Lyra's ears were tuned to them. Some were impressed. Others remained skeptical. Humans were clever, yes, but could they truly understand the subtle harmony of Viralia? Elias seemed to think so. The third challenge was more personal. The arena shifted, creating a space where holographic images of past leaders and citizens appeared. Each image presented a moral dilemma: choose the right course of action or act selfishly for immediate gain. Many participants in the past had been trapped by their pride, their impatience, or their fear. Elias faced the illusions carefully. One image showed a citizen trapped under a falling crystal, while another offered him the choice to secure safety for himself first. He hesitated, observing the situation, then acted decisively. He saved the citizen, even if it meant risking his own position in the trial. Lyra's heart leaped. This was what she had hoped to see. Humanity's strength was not only in the body or mind, but in the heart. Elias had demonstrated courage tempered by empathy. the very quality her people had been taught to fear in humans. The final challenge was the most subtle, yet the elders projected a simulation of conflict between humans and Varelians. It was designed to tempt him into aggression, to test whether his species' reputation for violence was true. Weapons appeared and holographic enemies surrounded him. Many humans would have reacted instinctively, striking first to defend themselves. Elias paused. He observed the simulated attackers, recognizing patterns and assessing motives. He did not attack. Instead, he used clever maneuvers to neutralize the threat without harm, turning potential conflict into a solution that protected both sides. Lyra felt a thrill of admiration. The Elder's test was failing to catch him off guard. He was showing exactly what she had sensed from the beginning. Humans could balance strength with wisdom. When the simulation ended, the Elders remained silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, one Elder raised a hand in acknowledgement. "Human, you have shown patience, intelligence, courage, and empathy. You have passed the trial. Your actions reveal not only strength, but understanding. Perhaps your kind is not as unpredictable as we feared." Lyra could hardly believe it. Elias had succeeded in every challenge, not through force, not through cunning alone, but through careful observation, thought, and moral clarity. The council had been impressed, not by raw power, by the careful balance of mind and heart that humans could offer. The trial completed, Elias and Lyra walked together out of the arena. The sun had climbed higher now, casting sharp rays across the city. Citizens watched from above, curious and whispering. Some were still cautious, but others began to murmur about the human who had passed the council's trial. Perhaps their fears were overstated. Perhaps humans were capable of more than legend suggested. Lyra turned to Elias. You really impressed them," she said softly. "Even the council seems surprised." Elias shrugged lightly, though a small smile tugged at his lips. "I did what I always do. I approached carefully, observed first, acted second, and tried to do what was right. That is how humans face challenges, not recklessly, but with awareness." Lyra nodded, her hands no longer trembling. "I can see that now. You truly understand caution and courage. You respect what you do not yet know." Elias looked at her with gentle eyes. "And I understand why you trembled when you first approached me. It is natural to feel fear when faced with the unknown. But fear can guide us. It reminds us to be careful. Courage, when combined with care, leads to understanding." For the first time, Lyra felt a sense of equality. They were no longer just human and Varelian, observing each other. They were two beings learning together, sharing knowledge, and beginning a bond of trust. She realized that the trial had been more than a test for Elias. It had been a lesson for her people as well. The council summoned them both to a side chamber, where they could speak freely. The elders shared insights, explanations, and cautions, but also acknowledged humanity's potential. Lyra translated each word with care, noticing how Elias listened, asked thoughtful questions, and respected their wisdom. His attention to detail and humility left a mark on the Varelians that pride or arrogance never could by the time they left the council chamber. Lyra felt a new sense of responsibility. Elias had passed the trial, but this was only the beginning. The work of understanding and cooperation had only just begun. She would need to guide him, help him navigate the subtleties of her people, and show the council that trust could grow. Elias noticed her thoughtful expression. "You've done well," he said. "Your guidance made all the difference. I could not have completed the trial without you." Lyra smiled, feeling a warmth she had not expected. "And you have shown me that humans are different from what we feared. Careful, strong, and thoughtful. Perhaps there is hope for friendship between our worlds after all." They walked together through the crystalline streets, past floating gardens and glowing fountains. Citizens paused to watch, some whispering in excitement, others simply curious. But everywhere, Elias moved with calm purpose, never arrogant, never imposing. He was human, yes, but in a way that inspired admiration rather than fear. As the twin suns climbed higher, their light refracting across the city's towers, Lyra felt a thrill of anticipation. The trial had ended, yes, but a new chapter was beginning. A chapter where humans and Varelians could work together, learn from each other, and perhaps change the fate of their worlds. Elias looked at the city with quiet appreciation. "This is just the beginning," he said softly. "We have much to learn from each other. But if we continue carefully, with respect and understanding, we can build something extraordinary." Lyra nodded, her earlier fear completely replaced by excitement and determination. For the first time, she truly believed that humans could be allies, partners, and perhaps even friends. And as they walked side by side through the glowing streets of Varelia, a new sense of hope filled the air, a hope that stretched far beyond the trial and into the possibilities of the future. The day after the trial, the city of Varelia seemed brighter. Sunlight refracted across crystalline towers, scattering colors into the streets below. Citizens moved with curiosity rather than caution, some glancing at Commander Elias Hart and the young diplomat Lyra as they walked together. The trial had ended, but its effects lingered. Whispers of humans' careful courage were spreading, and many Varelians began to question old fears. Lyra led Elias to a quiet garden beneath towering crystal trees, their branches glowing softly in the morning light. The air was filled with the hum of energy, subtle and calming. Here they could speak freely, away from the council and the watchful eyes of the city. "You have impressed everyone," Lyra said, her voice carrying a mixture of pride and relief. Even the elders admit they did not expect a human to succeed so completely. Elias smiled, but his eyes remained thoughtful. "It was not just me. You guided me, explained what to observe, and helped me understand the subtleties of your people. Success requires cooperation, not just courage." Lyra felt warmth spread through her chest. She had trembled when she first approached him, fearing the unknown, fearing the human. Now she no longer trembled. She had seen his care, his intelligence, and his empathy. She had seen how humanity could balance strength and wisdom, and it inspired her. The garden was filled with strange plants and glowing flowers, each reacting to their presence with faint pulses of light. Lyra guided Elias to a platform in the center, a place used by her people for teaching and learning. "Here we can share knowledge," she said, "and perhaps begin the work of understanding each other." Elias nodded, adjusting the small translator on his collar. "I am eager to learn," he said simply, "and I hope I can offer knowledge in return." They began with the basics. Lyra explained the city's energy system, a network that drew power from both sunlight and the planet's magnetic currents. She demonstrated how the energy flowed through the crystalline towers, powering vehicles, lights, and communication systems. Elias listened carefully, asking thoughtful questions. He noted differences and similarities with human technology, always careful not to judge but to understand. "You see," Elias said after a while, "humans also rely on natural energy, though we are not as advanced as you in harnessing it. On Earth, we struggle with balance using energy without harming our world. Your methods are remarkable," Lyra nodded. "Balance is everything. Technology must protect the planet, or it becomes meaningless." She paused, considering how much to reveal. "I can show you more, if you are willing to learn and respect our ways." Elias smiled. "I am here to learn, and I promise to respect your ways. I will not take anything without understanding it." For hours, they explored the garden, moving from energy systems to ecological studies. Lyra demonstrated how the planet's rivers were purified naturally, how the forests maintained their balance, and how citizens worked with technology instead of relying solely on it. Elias asked questions, made observations, and even suggested ideas, careful to align them with Varelian principles. Lyra was impressed by his insight. He saw patterns, not just data. He asked questions that revealed both curiosity and respect. Unlike many outsiders, he did not try to prove superiority. He sought understanding. She realized that this was what her people needed to see, that humans could be careful and thoughtful partners. As the sun reached its peak, they paused beneath a crystal tree whose leaves shimmered like liquid light. Lyra watched Elias sketch in a small notebook, recording ideas and observations. She wondered how his mind worked so fast, yet so precise, blending curiosity, caution, and creativity. You are different from what I imagined humans to be, she admitted softly. Elias looked up, a faint smile on his lips. We are many things. Some are reckless, some careful, some cruel, some kind. But most of us try to learn, and most of us try to improve. I believe that is what matters most. Lyra nodded, feeling her earlier fears fade completely. And you have shown me courage and care in equal measure? That is rare. Their conversation was interrupted by a distant hum signal from the council. Lyra glanced at Elias. They wish to speak with us, perhaps to discuss the next steps. Elias nodded. I am ready. They made their way to the council chambers, walking through streets filled with citizens who observed silently. Some whispered, some smiled, and some simply stared, trying to understand this human who had passed the trial and walked with the confidence of someone who respected their world. The council awaited them in a grand hall filled with soft light. The elders' expressions were unreadable, but Lyra sensed approval in their posture. One elder spoke, their voice low and melodic. You have passed the trial, human. Yet true understanding requires more than completing tasks. You must work with our people, share knowledge, and show that cooperation can bring benefit to all. Are you willing? Elias bowed slightly. I am willing. I will work with your people, learn from them, and share what we know in return. The elders nodded, signaling the beginning of the next phase. Lyra felt a thrill of anticipation. This was the moment when humans and Varelians could move beyond observation and trial into true collaboration. For the next several days, Elias and Lyra worked closely together. They combined human ingenuity with Varelian technology. Together, they explored solutions to improve energy efficiency, enhance communication systems, and purify water supplies. Elias suggested adjustments to certain devices, always mindful of the planet's balance, while Lyra guided him in understanding the subtle effects of each change. The process was slow, careful, and sometimes frustrating. Misunderstandings arose not from malice, but from different perspectives and habits. Elias would suggest an approach that seemed logical to him, but Lyra would explain why it might disrupt the delicate balance of the ecosystem. They would adjust, discuss, and try again. Through this process, a bond grew. They learned each other's ways of thinking, gaining respect for the differences and appreciation for the similarities. Elias admired Lyra's attention to detail, her patience, and her deep understanding of the planet. Lyra admired Elias' creativity, his careful approach, and the way he thought beyond immediate results to consider long-term effects. One evening, as the twin suns set and cast violet and gold light across the city, they stood atop a high tower, looking down at the glowing streets. Elias gestured toward the city. Look at what we have accomplished together in just a few days, he said. Imagine what we could achieve if more humans and Varelians worked side by side. Lyra smiled. It is remarkable. It gives hope not just for cooperation, but for friendship. Perhaps this is the start of a new understanding between our worlds. Elias nodded. I believe it is. Careful steps, respect, and learning from each other. These are stronger than fear, stronger than misunderstanding. And that is how civilizations grow. As night deepened, Lyra reflected on how far they had come. She remembered the trembling that had seized her when she first approached him, the fear that humans might be dangerous. That fear had been replaced by admiration, respect, and trust. She realized that the trembling had not been weakness, it had been awareness, a reminder to proceed carefully. Now, awareness was accompanied by hope. Elias turned to her. Tomorrow, we can begin a larger project, something that shows our people that humans and Varelians can create together. Something tangible. Lyra's eyes sparkled with excitement. Something that demonstrates cooperation, knowledge, and care. Something that our citizens can see and believe in. Back together. They planned the first collaborative project. System to purify and distribute water across the city using human ingenuity and Varelian technology. It would not only improve daily life, but serve as a symbol of what their worlds could achieve together. As they walked back through the city, citizens stopped to greet them, some offering small gestures of respect, others simply observing. Lyra noticed the way humans and Varelians alike could inspire curiosity and admiration when care and effort were shown. Elias did not boast or demand attention. He simply moved with purpose, respecting both the people and the world around him by the time they returned to the garden. The stars had emerged, reflecting in the silver rivers and on the crystalline trees. Lyra felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The bond between human and Varelian had grown stronger, built on respect, curiosity, and shared effort. She realized that trust, once fragile, could become the foundation for something far greater. Elias glanced at her. "Lyra, thank you. Without your guidance, none of this would be possible. You have shown patience, wisdom, and courage. I am honored to work alongside you." Lyra smiled, feeling warmth in her chest. "And I am honored to work alongside you. You have shown me that humans can approach the unknown carefully, with respect, courage, and understanding. That is something our people need to see and remember." As the night deepened, they sat beneath the glowing trees, planning, discussing, and imagining the possibilities. A new chapter had begun, one of collaboration, learning, and mutual respect. The bond they had formed was fragile, but strong, like a crystal that glimmers in the light. For the first time, Lyra felt certain humans could be partners, allies, and friends. And with careful steps and shared effort, the possibilities for their worlds were endless. The first light of dawn stretched across the city of Varelia, painting the crystalline towers in shades of violet, gold, and silver. The soft hum of energy pulsed through the streets, blending with the morning songs of glowing birds that flitted between the crystal trees. For Commander Elias Hart and Lyra, today was the culmination of days of careful work, shared learning, and mutual respect. In the central plaza, a new project stood ready for its first testa. Collaborative achievement that combined human ingenuity with Varelian technology. The Water Renewal Network, as Elias had named it, was designed to purify and distribute water throughout the city. Rivers, fountains, and reservoirs would now be cleaner, more efficient, and more sustainable than ever before. But more than its practical use, the project was a symbol, a proof that humans and Varelians could work together. Despite differences, fear, and long-held misconceptions, Lyra walked beside Elias. Her hands steady, her mind alive with anticipation. "The Council and the citizens will watch closely," she said. "They will judge not just the system, but the partnership that created it. This is the moment that could change everything." Elias nodded. "I know, and I am ready." We approached carefully, step by step, with respect for each other's ways. Today they will see what is possible when we trust and learn together. The plaza filled quickly as Varelian citizens gathered, curious, cautious, and hopeful. Hovering platforms lined the edges, and glowing orbs floated above, casting soft light over the audience. At the center, the elders waited, their elongated forms shimmering in the morning light. Their expressions were calm but unreadable. Elias could feel their scrutiny, but he did not flinch. He had faced trials before, and he understood that fear and skepticism were natural. Lyra guided him to the control platform, smooth crystal pedestal at the edge of the system. Together, they activated the Water Renewal Network. Streams of water glimmered as they moved through purification channels, flowing into fountains, rivers, and storage tanks. Sensors monitored the process, showing perfect balance and efficiency. The citizens watched silently, holding their collective breath. Then, the first fountain bubbled, its water shining crystal clear. The rivers began to flow more smoothly, the silver liquid reflecting the twin suns. Slowly, one by one, the other systems activated. Water spread evenly and cleanly across the city, nourishing gardens, trees, and homes. A low murmur rose from the crowd. Citizens whispered to one another, pointing at the flowing water, then glancing at Elias and Lyra. Some eyes widened in admiration, others in disbelief. They had expected humans to be clever, perhaps, but not careful, patient, or considerate enough to work in harmony with Varelian systems. One elder spoke finally, their voice clear and melodic. "Human and Varelian, you have created something extraordinary. This system is a gift not just of knowledge, but of trust and cooperation. Your actions prove that understanding, careful observation, and respect can overcome fear. You have shown what is possible when worlds work together. Lyra felt a thrill of pride. They are impressed, she whispered, smiling at Elias. You have truly changed their perspective. Elias shook his head gently. No, we have changed it together. This is the result of collaboration, of learning from each other. Humans alone could not have done this, nor could Varelians alone. But together, we have created something meaningful. The citizens began to applaud, softly at first, then louder. Some stepped closer to touch the flowing water, their faces lighting up with wonder. Children ran between fountains, laughing and splashing, while elders observed thoughtfully, realizing that the success was not just in the system, but in the partnership that had made it possible. Lyra turned to Elias, her eyes shining. Do you see? The fear is fading. The mistrust is slowly being replaced by hope. Elias nodded. Yes, and it will continue step by step, as long as we remain careful, respectful, committed to learning from one another. For a moment they stood together, watching the city respond to their work. The twin suns rose higher, casting golden light across the streets, the towers, and the gardens. The hum of energy, now perfectly balanced with the water renewal network, filled the plaza with a sense of harmony. Then something unexpected happened. From the crowd, a young Varelian approached the platform, carrying a small device. It was a gesture of trust, offering the humans an insight into Varelian technology that had been closely guarded. Elias accepted it with care, examining it and asking questions. Lyra translated, and together they began to discuss improvements and adaptations, blending human and Varelian knowledge seamlessly. The elders observed, nodding subtly. They had expected caution, perhaps hesitation, but not the depth of understanding and collaboration they now witnessed. Humans, it seemed, could indeed balance strength with wisdom, courage with care. As the day progressed, other projects began to form. Systems for communication, energy management, and environmental protection were now being redesigned with input from both species. Citizens joined in, learning from the humans and contributing ideas of their own. The city buzzed with excitement, innovation, and cooperation. Lyra walked beside Elias through the streets, observing the city's transformation. She could see the pride in the citizens' faces, the curiosity in their eyes, and the hope that humans could be allies, not threats. She realized that the trembling she had felt when first approaching Elias had vanished completely. Fear had been replaced by trust, and awareness had become understanding. You've done more than I imagined, she said softly. You've given our people hope, Elias smiled, and you have shown me the power of patience, guidance, and careful observation. Without you, none of this would be possible. They paused at a fountain, watching the water sparkle in the sunlight. For a long moment they simply stood together, side by side, two beings from different worlds connected by shared effort and mutual respect. Then, an elder approached, their form shimmering in silver light. Lyra, Elias, they said, their voice melodic and firm. The council recognizes your achievements. Today marks the beginning of a new era for Varelia and for humanity. We will continue to observe, learn, and cooperate. But your actions have proven one thing above all, that caution, courage, and understanding can change the fate of worlds. Lyra felt a shiver of pride. She turned to Elias, who nodded solemnly. They both understood the significance of the moment, not just the success of the water renewal network, but the beginning of trust between species that had once feared each other. That evening, as the twin suns set and the sky deepened into shades of indigo and violet, Lyra and Elias walked to the top of a high tower overlooking the city. The fountains sparkled below, the streets glimmered with life, and the citizens moved with purpose and curiosity. Do you think they will truly accept humans now? Lyra asked quietly. Elias looked out over the city, his gaze steady. Acceptance takes time, but respect grows quickly when actions prove intentions. Today, we have shown them that humans can be careful, courageous, and understanding. Tomorrow, they will continue to see it. Step by step, we can build trust that lasts. Lyra nodded. Step by step, she agreed, feeling a deep sense of hope. They stood in silence, watching the first stars appear in the indigo sky. It was a moment of peace, achievement, and possibility. The bond between them, between human and Varelian, had grown stronger, built on mutual respect, shared knowledge, and careful understanding. It was fragile, yes, but it shone brightly. Like the crystal towers and the flowing water below, Elias turned to Lyra. Tomorrow, we begin the next project. But tonight, we celebrate what we have already achieved. Not just a system, but the beginning of friendship between our worlds. Lyra smiled, the last traces of fear gone from her heart. Yes, a new dawn has begun. And in that moment, on a planet once filled with fear of humans, hope rose like the twin suns. Humanity was no longer seen as a threat, but as a partner, an ally, and a friend. The story of trust, courage, and careful approach had taken root, promising a future where strength and wisdom, courage and empathy could flourish together. The city glowed under the evening light, alive with innovation and life. Citizens whispered about the human who had approached carefully, respected their fears, and shown that friendship could grow even between worlds that had never truly known each other. Lyra and Elias stood side by side, watching the city thrive. And for the first time, the possibility of true interstellar cooperation felt not just like a dream, but a living reality. A new dawn had truly begun.